Welcome to the Distance to Empty podcast, the podcast where we talk about 200 plus mile ultramarathons and multi-day events. I am your host, Kevin Goldberg. I'm joined, as always, by everyone's favorite co-host, Peter Noyes. And today, for the first 100K or so of this episode, we're joined by my wife, Melanie White. Melanie, Peter, hello.
How's it going?
Good. All right, let's jump right into it because we are pressed for time today. We have another episode after this, and we want to spend all our time diving into today's topic, which is your 2025 Tahoe 200 course preview. I have run the race in the past. Peter's paced tons of the race. I paced almost 100 miles of it last year, and Melanie ran it as her first 200 last year. So Melanie is going to join us for the first 100K, which is the stretches of trail that Peter and I are a little less familiar with. So we're going to walk you through the course, talk about strategies, and just sort of dive into how you can have your best race this year at 2025's version of the Tahoe 200. This year we've got a 2.5 mile course. We'll see what it ends up being. You know, with these 200s, it's always a crapshoot. You might get some bonus miles. Cocodona gave us a few of those this year. So 200, 2.5 quoted miles. It is the out and back version again. So we are not yet looping around the lake. Candace and Destination Trail have hinted that maybe next year that is in the cards, but obviously that is all reliant on permits and recovery from that fire a few years ago. If you're a new listener to Distance to Empty, thanks for being here. Hopefully you're getting a Distance to Empty sticker in your Tahoe 200 swag bag. We'd love it if you'd subscribe and give us a listen. We cover all the major 200s and talk about stories from these awesome races. All right, let's dive into this year's Tahoe 200. Already mentioned, it's not an out and back route. I mean, it is not a loop route. We're doing the out and backs again, so we'll dive into that. The race starts and finishes from Heavenly Stagecoach Lodge. You have 105 hours to cover the 202.5 miles. And whether this is your first 200 or if you've got tons of buckles up on the wall, this race is hard. There's a lot of things that make Tahoe 200 a challenging 200 plus mile race. So we are going to try to break it down and make it more digestible for you. First and foremost, let's jump into some of the changes. Peter, Melanie, have you heard about the new 1.5 mile loop to start the race this year?
I've heard about it. You told me about it about 15 minutes ago, but it sounds like an interesting change. I know that there's been some mixed feelings about it, but yeah, I think you and I were just chatting about how it actually could be a really beneficial adjustment to the race because the start of the race typically goes immediately uphill on a single track, pretty much about 30 seconds from the start line. So the conga line can get really, really slow. Like it's all this excitement of getting off the start line, everybody starts running, and then you're just walking for quite a few miles after that. So this adjustment gives an opportunity for kind of that conga line to spread out and people to get kind of in the position they might want to be. And then also just a warm up before you start just like going directly uphill, because that's not ever really that fun. So I think it's actually a really great adjustment.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's only a mile and a half, so it's not going to take you that long. Hopefully people don't go out too hot and realize that it is paved. There's some hills on that loop. I feel like I've driven that loop a bunch of times while I was pacing and crewing last year. You get to run by some nice Tahoe houses and condos, and like you said, Mel, warm up and just kind of spread the field out before you dive right into that single track. So love it or hate it, trust us, you will barely remember it by the time you're 100 miles in. You'll have other things to focus on. So yeah, short loop to start the race. We think it's a good thing, and I think it will help kick off the race really well. Another significant change is that there were cutoffs last year, I think at Housewife Hill, and this year the first official cutoff is now at Heavenly. So back after that first 100K plus. So, I mean, I think that's really nice. Like people have the opportunity to get that first 100K in at their own pace and not worry about getting cut off during that stretch. Yeah, cutoffs have been adjusted. Make sure if you haven't read through the runner's manual carefully, you're checking that out. Another change, Peter, I'm going to pass this one off to you. There's a new piece of mandatory gear. This is a piece of mandatory gear that Peter's going to get familiar with here in the near future as he's training for Badwater. So what's the new piece of mandatory gear, Peter?
Yeah, it's exciting. The new piece of mandatory gear are wag bags, sometimes known as Biffy bags. So it is a way to do your business on the trail and truly leave no trace. So yeah, it's for going number two. My advice for this is still carry wipes. So the Biffy bag or the wag bag does include the bag and some terrible toilet paper. So in theory, it's an all-in-one thing, but you're going to want wipes in addition to that. It all goes in the bag and tie it off and dispose of it elsewhere than the trail.
Yeah. The race is providing wag bags. Make sure you use them. It is a good thing to practice, especially in like the high alpine Tahoe region where your poop and anything else you leave behind is probably going to sit around for years and years and years if it doesn't become bear bait, which that's not good for bears either. So, all right.
Also kind of helps guarantee the future of these races, right? Like we're having a significant impact with permits and all of that, and an impact on the ecosystems, and pooping out there is a huge problem. So hopefully that will help the growth of these races continue into the future.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's dive into the race. So for this first 100 or so miles, the out and back to Housewife and back to Heavenly, we're going to mostly rely on you, Mel, because I don't think Peter's ever been on those trails. And for me, it's been 5+ years since I've been on those trails. And for you, it was just last year. So let's talk about the start to Armstrong Pass. So you've got that 1.5 mile loop, you hit up that single track, and you've got about 16 miles to get to Armstrong Pass. It's a pretty big climb from what I understand to start the race. What do you remember from this section here, Mel?
It is a pretty big climb to start the race. Again, I think, having that 1.5 mile loop through the neighborhood will help you kind of ease into that climb. But actually, this was really fun because the excitement is super high. You get to tackle a big climb while you're feeling fresh, and everybody's got adrenaline going and everybody's super friendly and chatting. Like, this is when you have an opportunity to make some friends that maybe you will spend the next couple of days with. So I remember that climb up to the pass being actually quite enjoyable. And, it is a pretty significant elevation gain. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it goes by quite quickly just because you're so excited and you're chatting with everybody. But, yeah, I think I enjoyed this climb. It's a lot of gain, but it's never all that steep until you get really close to the pass. The pass is beautiful. So when you get up to the pass and over it and start descending down to the aid station, that's when you get like your first views of the lake, which is just like spectacular and a fun thing to be like, oh yeah, we get to spend the next few days out here at Lake Tahoe. And then yeah, once you do get over that pass, it's kind of a long, lovely descent toward the Armstrong aid station, which is unfortunately an out and back up and down a pretty steep hill. The little out and back up and down to the aid station is quite steep and significant. So just take it at whatever pace you need and get it over with.
I got a couple questions. One, that descent down to the turnaround, is that runnable? Do people run a risk of going too hard there, blowing out their quads early?
Yeah, from the pass to the Armstrong Pass aid station is super runnable. It's like beautiful. The very beginning of it is actually quite beautiful, like smooth trails, and you can definitely go too hard because again, the excitement level and adrenaline is still quite high. You've gotten your first big climb over with. You're feeling good. It's early in the day. Yeah, definitely control yourself when you're going down that because it would be easy to take it too hard.
And then also, if I recall last year, you did have some stomach issues and whatnot. Was it already, were you already puking at this point?
No, I was still feeling pretty good at this point. My issues began very shortly after leaving the Armstrong Pass aid station headed toward Housewife Hill. But at this point in my race, no indication of any issues quite yet.
And
Still having fun.
I think we'll dive into that a little bit more, but just a good reminder that everyone expects these races to be really hard, but always remember to expect it to be hard sooner than you think it might be, and be prepared for the reality that you might find yourself puking at mile 18 when like you just couldn't have fathomed that beforehand. You're like, that's a 120-mile problem, not a mile 18 problem. So good reminder there. Well, it looks like the weather this year, it's looking really nice weather-wise, but it is Tahoe in the spring. They often see a whole range of weather from hot to cold to very windy this time of year, especially at night. And that wind tends to move weather in quickly. I also saw, we're recording this. Well, first of all, we're recording this on National Donut Day. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you see me starting on a donut here shortly, that's why. Don't judge. I did not get a donut for Melanie, and Peter is in LA, and I did not tell him to get a donut. So I need to work on being a less selfish person. Where was I going before I got donut sidetracked? Weather. So we're recording this on National Donut Day, June 6th. So we're, we're less than what are we? Exactly a week out from the race. Weather's looking really good. I did see that Tahoe had some pretty significant weather like yesterday. They got snow, they got hail. It didn't look like significant accumulation, but there was snow on the ground and it could still be there for this race. So I would say don't rely on this preview for your weather forecast. Definitely keep an eye on what the race is going to put out there and be prepared for the possibility of really every kind of weather. I mean, when you're packing your gear, like it's Tahoe in the spring, you need to be prepared for everything. But where I'm getting to with all this rambling is, Mel, I think if snow is going to be existent on the course, it's going to be in these first two stretches. Can you talk about like the presence of snow last year, heading up to Armstrong and then down to Housewife and back?
Yes, and I will try to remember as much as I can, but I tend to zone out during races, so I will do my best to recall where the snow was. That was a lovely donut bite, Kevin, for those of you not watching. He's really bragging about donut day here. So yeah, the first 100K is really where you will likely encounter any issues with snow. Last year was actually quite a low snow year, so we had great conditions out there, but every year is different. And even with last year being great conditions, there were definitely some larger snow fields that needed to be passed. I personally am quite comfortable crossing snow fields. We live and train out in Colorado, so it's something we encounter fairly frequently. So I had a lot of confidence crossing those, but I do know since it was an out and back, I was able to see and see some people coming in the other direction when I was going back. And I could see that some people were not as confident with crossing the snowfield. So I know that it can be a little bit intimidating, but for those people who maybe don't have as much experience with snowfields, just be careful, take them slow, dig your feet into the snow and get some good purchase. If you have trekking poles, make sure you've got your pole kind of helping support you on the downslope side. So if you start slipping, that's there to kind of help you. But they're not as scary as I think a lot of people think they are. And they were not very long. So, you cross them and get them over with and just move on. But there are definitely multiple snowfields to cross in this first 100K. I think mostly after the Armstrong Pass aid station is where we saw those.
Got it. Yeah, the year I paced it, there was a little bit of snow too, but I think that was also a low snow year. It wasn't significant either. So okay, so that after this section, it's now just redoing what you did, right, all the way back to the start line. So what do you remember from the reverse trip? Was there anything significant there to note? It's now the night, I assume.
Well, out and backs are tough, right? Because you're getting a preview the whole way out of what you're going to then need to traverse on the way back. So as you're enjoying all of those lovely downhills, you're thinking about, oh, shoot, I'm going to have to turn around and go back up this. That is especially true on that leg between Armstrong and Housewife Hill. Housewife Hill is at the bottom of a very long descent. Like you lose quite a bit of elevation heading into Housewife Hill just to then turn around. So I would say on the first 100K, take a moment to regroup at Housewife Hill, get some real good food in your stomach if you're not already puking, regroup, and then turn around and start heading back up. The beauty again of this being an out and back is that day one, there's just so much opportunity to like interact with your fellow racers. So it was kind of fun going back up the hill and chatting with people coming down and taking an opportunity to just kind of interact with people out there because things start to thin out quite a bit on the second day. But yeah, I mean, you are going to then need to go back up that hill. So make sure again that you're conserving your energy and ready to turn around and do that. A lot of people will do the descent and or the climb up from Housewife Hill in the heat of the day, and that is a very hot section. So keep that in mind. If it's warm, if the sun's out at altitude, it's hotter than you think it would be. That section's a little bit exposed and it's really long. So make sure that you plan for that accordingly. But then, yeah, as soon as the sun starts going down, it does start getting quite a bit cooler. Do have layers with you. You could go from being boiling hot on the way into Housewife Hill to freezing on the way out of it. So just be prepared for that kind of temperature swing on that day heading back. And then yeah, you go back to Armstrong. They had a great campfire there. I spent too much time next to that campfire commiserating with some other people who were having a tough day one. So don't get sucked in by the campfire. But they had great breakfast burritos to eat there and soup and warming people up. I think they had hot cider as well. So that was lovely. The volunteers there were awesome because it's a long stretch without seeing any crew. So the volunteers at these aid stations are really great and take good care of you. And then, yeah, you go back up that lovely descent that you did before, up and over Armstrong Pass. And then once you get over the pass there, it feels exciting. Like that descent back down to Heavenly is really fun. It's probably one of the more technical descents that you'll do during day one or in this 100K, but you have the promise of, hopefully the promise of crew and or aid at that start finish. And then, it feels like the real starting point of the race because you've gotten that huge 100K out and back over with. And now you're really going into like the meat of the race. So it's a nice milestone mentally as well.
Yeah. You mentioned like the part of the out and back, seeing all the other runners, which, I really love that when doing out and backs. And at Tahoe, you get to do it twice because you see people on the Housewife out and back section and then again on the Tahoe City out and back section. And everyone's going to see everyone, regardless of whether you're seeing them on your way out or your way back or a mix of the two, depending on where you're at in the race. How long, Mel, on that? And this might be asking you to stretch your memory, but like, what duration would you say you were seeing people for? I mean, on that like Tahoe out and back, it's so, you're looking at 130, 140 miles. So you're seeing people for like 10 plus hours, maybe more, because the race is so spread out at that point. So more concentrated on that day one. Like, were you seeing people for an hour? Was it 3 hours? Like, do you remember sort of what that was like?
On the first K, day one, I think I saw quite a few people as I was leaving Housewife Hill who were coming in. I think heading back to Armstrong was when I saw like the last kind of string of people on that day one. But then again, you start another out and back after that. And then I think, gosh, we were seeing people all the way till Brockway on the return. Like quite a bit of my race was getting to see other racers coming toward you, and it's kind of fun. It makes you feel a little less alone out there because yeah, I saw my last people. You guys will get into it later, but I saw my last people just before I had to go do my terrible descent down power line, and that was a little bit demoralizing.
Yeah, we saw Harry about 3 miles out from Brockway while you were heading down. So like you were seeing people for maybe like 15 hours or so.
Mm, yeah.
Which, I mean, you still go long stretches without seeing people, but it's pretty cool that you have that like big portion of your race where you're like going to be seeing fellow runners. Cool. What about the like, a lot of people talk about how nice the trails themselves are, like the actual trail surface conditions at Tahoe. And I feel like the first 100K is a little more like high alpine. It is the highest part of the course. Peter and I can speak to the trail conditions for the rest of the course, but what about the actual like trail conditions from Heavenly out to Housewife and back? Like, are they as good as the rest of the race? Are they a little more rugged and technical? What can you say about that?
This is a great question. The climb up to Armstrong Pass is actually a little bit technical, quite rocky, lots of big steps. But again, that's day one, and everybody's kind of bunched together and excited, so everybody's in it together. So it's really not anything too significant. Again, going from Armstrong down to like the Armstrong Aid is nice and flowy. So those are just beautiful trails. I think, I would say that the first 100K is maybe a bit more technical than the rest of the race, but I do think like there aren't really any bad trails out there. And that's part of what is so amazing about this race. It's just the trail conditions are pretty great. It can be a little bit dusty, but not too bad. I think the descent down to Housewife is also a little bit more technical, but overall, all really great runnable trails, in my opinion. I mean, that is coming from Colorado where things are very rocky, but it's beautiful. I would love to run year round out there.
So sleep is a big factor in these races as well. And there's a few official sleep stations, and one of those is Heavenly, which is the end of that 100K. So curious, in your race, did you sleep night one? Were you sleeping there at Heavenly, and what was that like? if so?
Yeah. So I was always planning to sleep at Heavenly because I knew I was going to get there kind of in the middle of the night. And it felt like, again, if it hadn't had like this 100K out and back, and then you were departing on another out and back, it was maybe a little earlier than I would have liked to sleep in my race, but it felt like such a kind of turning point that it made sense to like say, okay, that's done. This is a sleep station. It's the middle of the night for me. Like, let's regroup. And then now we're going to go out. And now it's only a, 140-mile race that you're doing. So I was always planning to sleep there. However, my race plan fell apart again, as we've alluded to, pretty much at mile 18. So my plan to sleep there immediately became like necessary from a like putting me back together again. I had some pretty bad sleep at Heavenly, but it is indoors, so that's nice. But I do believe there was a frantic shuffle to find a trash can for me as I sat up from lying down and saying that all that food I had just eaten was coming back.
A wag bag could double as a puke bag, actually.
That would have been great. It was amazing how ill prepared people were for someone to be throwing up in that aid station. It was a struggle to find that trash can and get it to me in time.
There you go. So extra wag bags if your stomach turns.
But I do recommend if you are a person who has a sleep strategy going in and definitely wants to get kind of day one, night one sleep, Heavenly is a great place to do it. It's a great mental reset. It's warm. It's a little loud because it is a small space with a lot of cots, but it's a good spot to do it if you can.
Great. Yeah. And reminder that it's a 6-hour limit to sleep at these places.
Yeah, you can sleep a whole 6 hours if you need to. And we'll talk more about sleep, but another plug for anyone who's listening to this as a new listener. Our course previews tend to bring in some new listeners. We are interviewing a person right after this, a doctor who did his PhD thesis on sleep deprivation in ultramarathons. So that should be a really cool episode that we're looking forward to getting out there as well. All right, Mel, we'll let you go here. Peter and I can take it from the rest of this race, although we'll probably still use your race as an example throughout. If you are interested, we did record an episode with Melanie on her whole Tahoe 200 experience. It was released shortly after the Tahoe 200 race last year in 2024. Highly recommend if you're listening to this preview and want some more pre-Tahoe content as you head into your final taper week here and are trying to fight off the race day anxiety. Go check that out. Mel had an interesting race, but it was her first 200 and she crushed it, 74 or so hours, and got to the finish line strong. So Mel, before we let you go, any closing advice, general Tahoe tips or strategies that you'd like to impart?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of debate over whether or not Tahoe lung is a real thing. I am strongly in the Tahoe lung is a thing camp. I definitely experienced it last year. There's been a lot of like talk about like what causes it. People have talked about like the granite dust and like a bunch of different things, but quite certain it's the pine tree pollen. This time of year, there's like a neon green coating of pollen everywhere. You're breathing it in, it's in the air as well as the dust. So do take it seriously. If you can cover up your mouth at certain points, it will help. Bandanas, things like that. I know there were a few people who even wore masks last year, like the N95 masks, if they could tolerate it. For me, I have some breathing problems already, so I actually was able to use my inhaler throughout, which did help a little bit. But I think actually taking, and not a doctor, so take this with what you will, but taking Mucinex throughout helped quite a bit because there was a lot of like fluid buildup in my lungs. And I know that was a pretty universal experience for a lot of people because you can hear it at the aid stations when people are coughing. But the Mucinex certainly seemed to help from a like clearing that out perspective. So plan for it. It's very likely that you will have some trouble breathing. You'll have some gunk in your lungs. It's not the end of the world. And just plan for it so that you can make sure you have the tools you need to work through it. And if you need to slow down, then slow down. And maybe try to sleep kind of sitting up a little bit because it can be difficult to sleep when your lungs are full of fluid.
Tips. All right, Mel. Well, we'll catch you soon. Thanks for joining us for the first 100K.
Thanks for having me, and I'm going to come steal the rest of your donut.
No, because then we're going to have to edit that out, and it's just going to be messy. And I need to run right after these episodes, so this is
Okay.
fuel. I'm fueling.
All right. Well, way to tie in National Donut Day with this episode. There's no tie-in, but you made it happen.
Yeah, we're overachievers here. All right, get out of here.
All right. Bye, everyone.
See ya.
All right. Well, that was awesome. Super appreciate Mel for joining us for that because we definitely don't know that first 100K as well as someone who ran it last year. All right, Peter, let's dive into the rest of the episode here. What makes Tahoe so challenging, I think, obviously it's a hard course, lots of climbing, rugged mountain terrain. But as we mentioned, the trails are in really good shape. There's a lot of like things it has going for it that makes it easier to run 200. But one of the really challenging things is the length between aid stations. Like they're all far. I mean, you have that 13 or 14 mile stretch between Village Green and Brockway, but everything else is like 16 to 20 miles. And I think that just makes runners have to be really self-sufficient and like really bring everything they need for these long stretches. So Heavenly to Spooner is one of those longer sections. So you're leaving Heavenly around mile 63 and you're going to go all the way to mile 81 at Spooner Summit. I paced this section twice. This is a really nice section. Is like many of the sections of Tahoe, with the exception of Brockway to Tahoe City and that reverse, it is a, climb, flat, then descend section, depending on what, obviously in both directions. So you climb out of Heavenly and you're basically making your way up to Spooner Summit. So Spooner Summit is and if you get there during the day, many people will get there during the day. There'll be a photographer up there. It's like a beautiful like alpine meadow with views of the lake, and it got a couple of miles, maybe 1 or 2 miles of like flat-ish through that meadow, and then you begin the descent down into Spooner aid station. So a climb out of Heavenly, little flat, and then the descent, and it's a really nice section. Again, these trails are in like really good condition, and I'm looking at the course profile here. It's probably only about a mile of flat up in that meadow, but it's a nice mile. Yeah, this is a great section. What makes this challenging is just how long it is, and also, when you get to Spooner, it is not a crewable aid station. So you're going to do 2 big chunks here without seeing crew. So you'll want to have a drop bag at Spooner if you think you need one. And if you have a pacer, you want to make sure that this is someone who's going to be really capable because the next section is pretty challenging. Yeah, it's a long section, but it's a really nice section. What about you, Peter? Any memories from this one, or have you not actually done this one?
I've never seen this part of the course.
Okay, yeah, it's a good one. You've just spent hours and hours hanging out at Spooner Summit.
Yeah, very familiar with Spooner.
Who are you waiting for at Spooner for so long?
Francis. And I remember Francis coming into Spooner, and yeah, he was in rough shape. He had to get put back together at Spooner a bit. So yeah, it did seem like it was a good stretch before he got there. So the next stretch is I'm familiar with. So I paced Francis from Spooner to Village Green. I was fresh when I did this, so to me it was a fun section, but I think it is hard. It's basically, if I recall, another up and over. And the other thing to point out about Tahoe too is that the nights are really short this time of year. It's a little far north, and we're getting into summer. We basically, this section took the whole night. I think we left around midnight or so. So it was already dark for a few hours, but we caught the sunrise heading to Village Green. So, Arizona Monster, the nights were really long, like almost 12 hours, but here the nights are like 6 hours or something. So yeah, just another up and over. I remember more single track technical trails in the first part of this. It was at night. It was cold. You're high up at elevation again. So definitely got to be prepared for weather, but I'm sure you will because it's not a crewable aid station. So you would have needed to been prepared for that previous section. And then heading down to Village Green is very runnable. So if you've still got any kind of running legs left at this point, yeah, plan for that so that you can make up time in the latter part of this section. And Village Green it's a great spot to get to. You haven't seen crew in a while. There's a restaurant there, and to me, it seems like another good sort of reset spot because you're about to get into that community of Incline Village, going on the bike path. So yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah, this is I think this is one of the harder sections. Even not, I mean, you have that downhill in this direction where it's like a dirt road for several miles. I forget how long. It's pretty long. And even on the way back, that's great too, because you can kind of just turn your brain off and not think about your footing. And it's like, if you hit it during the day, I think it's a pretty popular tourist hike to go up and get a big view of the lake. But once you get off that road, so the trail in this direction going from Spooner to Village, like It's hard. It's a tough section. A lot of climbing. There's a tiny bit of snow on this section when I paced it last year. Really short snow field. Not a big deal. Um, Tahoe this time of year gets a lot of weather at night with like wind and potentially rain. When I did this last year, it was maybe the windiest conditions I've ever existed in. My trekking poles were being blown sideways. Obviously, there's not much purchase on trekking poles for the wind to catch. That's how windy it was. It was so windy. So I think a lot of people will probably be hitting this during the day on the way out. But if you're hitting it at night, especially on the way back when you're further beat down and more tired, like make sure you're hitting it on the way back with everything you might need for weather and cold temps. But yeah, it's a beautiful section. Do you remember? Did you do it during the day or at night?
It was mostly at night, but we caught an amazing sunrise as we were starting the descent. We weren't to the fire road yet, but I remember there's a cool little alpine lake up there, a lot of single track kind of switchbacks coming down. So it was cool. Yeah, I was digging it.
Yeah, it's a really pretty section. When I ran this back in 2019 during my race, I was in rough shape. I forget what mile that would have even been. Probably somewhere around the halfway point, a little more than halfway.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And even the year I paced it, the weather wasn't really too notable, but the drive into Spooner, it was flurrying, it was snowing a bit. So yeah, you got to be prepared for anything up there.
Yeah. So it looks like in this direction, that descent down into Village Green, like, so you have like what is it, like a 6 mile climb coming out of Spooner Summit. And then it's sort of a little downhill, a little uphill for about 5 miles. And then a like 3.5 or so mile descent down into Village Green. And let's see, this section has about 3,000 feet of up and 3,700 feet of down. It's a lot of gain and loss, squeezed into that section. The last, I want to say last mile and a half are on like roads, and then you get to the bike path down there in Incline Village, and then the longer stretch on that bike path comes in that next section, which is Village Green to Brockway Summit. Village Green to Brockway Summit is the shortest section of this race, 14 miles. But it has 3,000 feet of up, 3,100 feet of up in this direction, and 2,200 feet of down. So it's a lot of elevation change mixed into a 14-mile stretch. As Peter mentioned, you'll get down to Incline Village. This is the first time you'll see your crew since back at Heavenly. So definitely take care of yourself. This is an aid station where the parking lot for the crew is very, very close to the aid station. So if you did want to go sleep in your car, it's a pretty short walk, probably 1/10 of a mile, maybe a little bit more, but it's one of the shorter walks outside of Tahoe City when it comes to getting to a car. So take care of yourself at Village Green, because this next section, while it is one of the shorter ones, has the punchiest, steepest climb of the race. So section starts off with a good 4-mile stretch on the bike path down through Incline Village along the lakes. This is a really great opportunity to either leave the aid station with some food, walk and eat, take care of yourself, and sort of get back into a rhythm, or to make some good time and do a little bit of running, or a combination of the two. Take advantage of that 4-mile stretch on the bike path. Don't just ogle at the multi-million-dollar billionaire homes and all that, because there's opportunity there. I mean, you're looking at 4.5 miles both ways. That's total. That's 5% of the race. So take advantage of the easy miles, because when you get to mile 4.5 or so, you're going to hit the wall that is the infamous Tahoe 200 power line climb. I think it's like, this has it going from like just under 6,500 up to like nearly 8,000. So it's like just under 2,000 feet of gain in like 2 miles, and it's short, which is the saving grace. It is short, but it is very, very steep. Somewhat loose footing on this climb. You won't get lost on this climb. Like, it's very clear where you need to be going, and that is up. But you may not like follow the trail exactly. Like, there's some like social trails, and like people have made their own little switchbacks and stuff. So don't worry too much about that. But you won't get lost. It's clear. I think one of the psychologically challenging things is you do get to the top of this power line climb, and then there's a short descent, and it feels like you're like settling back into being okay and not having to climb such a steep climb anymore. And there is another pretty good climb about 2 miles after the summit of the power line. So when you get to the top of the power line, might be a good idea to take a beat, turn around. If it's daytime, it's really, really pretty. The view from the top of power line is like stunning vista of the whole lake. But yeah, then you have another pretty steep climb that's about 2 or so miles long, And when you get to the top of that, it's mostly downhill out over to Brockway. You descend for about like 4 miles, and then you'll get to a pretty big road crossing. I mean, it's like a mountain highway, so there won't be a lot of traffic, but it's a real road crossing. Most people feel like they should be at Brockway when they get to that road, but there's still about a mile and a half, and that's mostly uphill, that little last bit. So yeah, this is a hard section. So make sure you take care of yourself at Village Green. You did do this as well, Peter, right?
Yep, yeah, I did it. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Like for me, Powerline was fun, but I mean, I did it in the day. I was sweating, I was working, even as the pacer. But the views at the top were worth it. And I remember there's a really cool like meadow up there where it's just green as far as the eyes can see, cool plants and whatnot. So I like this section. And then so that took us to Brockway. So I'm not familiar with Brockway to Tahoe City. I've run some of those trails in training, but Francis was alone during that section when I did it.
Did you take him back from there?
No, it was completely different that year.
Right.
It wasn't the double out and back. It was just one huge out and back.
Right. That was just me that paced that. Cool. Well, I paced it last year, so I can speak to it. So you ended your pacing at Brockway then, right?
I ended at Brockway, which had the tents. That was the one that was like a mile walk for the
and then you started up again at Tahoe City back when it ended over at Homewood. That's right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so the big thing to note for crew at this aid station is that they say it's 0.6 miles from the parking lot to the aid station. It's at least that. I think it's a little more like 3/4, maybe a little longer, but it's a decent walk in. It's a flat dirt road, but the course crosses the road that you walk in on. So just make sure if you're running late, you don't miss your runner, or you won't really be able. I mean, you could, but you won't want to like walk back to the car to get things. So bring everything they might need. And this is one where this aid station, if the runner needs to sleep, they're most likely going to be sleeping in the tent they have there. So it is a sleep station. They do have a bunch of tents and blankets and cots set up, and you should be able to get good sleep here. But if you're a prima donna like me and Peter and only sleep in the car or on dirt naps in between trails, then you might not like sleeping in the aid station here. This section from Brockway down to Tahoe City, it's a long section. Let's see, it is 19 miles. No, yeah, 19 miles. It is 2,500 feet of up and 3,500 feet of down, heading down to Tahoe City. One of the more unique sections in the sense that it's like pretty undulating, and you're like, from Brockway, you climb a little bit, then you descend a little bit, then you climb a little bit, then you descend, then you climb, then you descend, climb, descend, climb, and then a big descent down into Tahoe City. So it's definitely more like varied and up and down than the other ones. Yeah, being that it's 19 miles, it's just a really long stretch. The trails are in really good shape here, better overall than the previous section, which has a little bit looser stuff with Powerline and some other sections. So these are really nice classic Tahoe trails, and Tahoe City is a really nice aid station. It's in a very accessible parking lot. Tahoe City has restaurants and grocery stores, and if you're there and during hours that those things are open, you'll be able to get your runner. The crew will be able to get the runner anything they need. And if you want to sleep at Tahoe City and have a crew, the car will be right there and easy to get to. I would say if you're seeing crew at Brockway, just make sure you're prepared for this section just because it's so long. That's kind of the theme of this preview, is like use the aid stations to gear up and prepare for the next section because they're all pretty long. And this one's no exception, down to Tahoe City. And don't underestimate, kind of like Peter was saying earlier, actually it was Melanie was saying it on that earlier section from start to Armstrong and in the reverse, like none of this stuff is like super, super steep on this section, with maybe a few of the climbs out of Tahoe City, but it's a lot of gain. It adds up, and you're never going flat. Like it's always up or down. So yeah, but then you get to Tahoe City at mile 133-ish, and I mean that really feels like a turning point in this race. Even though you're well over halfway, you're like actually turning around and heading back to Heavenly, and you've now done every section, so you know what to expect on the way back. You're heading home. It feels like a really good turning point. That being said, I feel like this is where people can start to unravel if they haven't taken care of themselves or aren't taking care of themselves, because there's still, 70 miles left. And as you'll know at this point, having done all those sections, you have some really hard, terrain coming up ahead of you that you're going to have to backtrack on. So yeah, I know you haven't done the section, but any thoughts on just this part of the race, Peter, being 130-ish miles in?
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, it's a lot of climbing, but these trails are great. Like I've run these trails in training, so I think that's kind of the interesting thing about this race. It's the most climbing packed in of like any of the major 200s. It's the only hard rock qualifier out of them, combined with just amazing trail conditions. So it's you can move quickly if you've got it in you. And yeah, in terms of sleep, yeah, Brockway, if you don't sleep there, you kind of roll in the dice. I think it's a long push to Tahoe City, but got to sleep at Tahoe City at least, I think, if you didn't sleep at Brockway. And then yeah, it's just mentally preparing to redo those last 60, 70 miles to the finish. I'm just looking at the gain coming out of Tahoe City. It is net uphill this way, so it is a significant climb coming out of Tahoe City with a lot of that undulations. It almost feels like a lot of climbing on the way out. Even the Brockway back to Village Green, it's a lot of climbing there too. Before the power line, so be prepared to climb.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the segment descriptions in the runner's manual, so many of these sections by the numbers are similar. I mean, they're all within 14 to 19 miles long. They're all within like Housewife Hill to Armstrong Pass has over 4,000 feet, but other than that, they're all like 2,500 feet to 3,500 feet of ascent or descent. It's almost like you're in like Groundhog's Day at Tahoe, where it's like every section is just hitting you with the same numbers and the same type of terrain and just the same overall like up, down, up, down. So it's very, very Groundhog Day like, where you are, it's consistent. There's sections that are harder than others and easier than others, but you're pretty much looking at like moderate sections each time, which is hard back to back to back. You're not getting much of a reprieve. So yeah, I think it's just being prepared for that. All right, we'll run it back. We'll probably take less time here for the return trip because we've already covered these sections. So let's see, leaving Tahoe City and heading back to Brockway Summit. Again, it's the same 19 miles you just did, but it's reversed. Now you're going 35 up and 24 down. So you have that big climb out of Tahoe City. And then it's the same sort of undulating up and down the rest of the way to back to Brockway. As we mentioned at the top of the episode, this is a fun one because you're going to be seeing a lot of the other runners as you go down to Tahoe City and then as you start heading back up to Brockway. So you'll be able to see all your friends, give people high fives, probably see some zombies. Maybe you'll be one of them, and that's always a good time. So getting back to Brockway, then you go over to Village Green. Peter, I'm trying to think, neither of you or I have not descended the power line climb.
No, but everyone that has told me like you can't follow the trail going down it. I think a lot of people just kind of bomb it straight down.
Yeah.
Like I could barely follow it up.
Yeah. I've heard it's worse going down. I mean, I probably heard that because you're, an extra 50 miles in at this point than when you did it the first time around. So it's probably mostly worse just because you're so much deeper into the race. So everything's going to seem worse. But yeah, this is it's a steep descent. Like I would make sure you use your trekking poles, be careful, and get through it. It's 2 miles. It might be slow, but that's okay. You'll make up time on the bike path right after it. Yeah, definitely something to be aware of, but probably not that big of a deal. Just got to get through it, and then that again, you're hitting that four or so mile bike path off the power line, and you can really hopefully enter Village Green in pretty good shape because you'll have 4 miles of bike path to get your head back on. And this will be first time you've seen crew since Brockway. I mean, not first time. I mean, you've seen crew at hopefully Tahoe City, Brockway, and then Village Green, but it's like the first time you might see your car since Tahoe City, if that's what you've been sleeping in. And then, yeah. Anything else there? The next section is a nice start, I think.
Yeah. That bike path, like you're saying, I could see how if I were racing this, I would probably be feeling good there. Just got that crazy power line out of the way. Some easy miles before Village Green. Village Green's got some good amenities there, so I'm not dreading the next section to the finish, but probably feeling good in that bike path. So yeah, Village Green to the finish. You're not going to see your crew till the finish. What is it, like 37 miles total? And those are two big sections that both pack a big punch. So yeah, and still a ton of climbing left. Village Green up and over Spooner, back down to Spooner Aid Station. That's a lot of climbing, even more climbing than the other way because it's net uphill this time. And a lot of the climbing is just on that fire road to start. And so you're going to have a more technical descent coming down to Spooner. So, got to be prepared for that. And then, Spooner's not crewable, but this is the last aid station before the finish. But still a lot of miles, a lot of tough section. Looks like, I don't know, Kevin, you know that one better, but how would you feel having to do that last section before the finish?
Yeah, it's really a nice section to finish on, and there's a lot of like not super steep in either direction terrain, like heading into Heavenly. It's pretty runnable if you were fresh, but obviously people are 190 miles in when they're getting close. I think one thing, even I paced 96 miles last year, so I was feeling pretty wrecked by the end of my pacing duties. And one thing I remember was like you get like 4 miles out from Heavenly, and you start to feel like you're there. Every once in a while, you'll see like a ski condo or a house, or you'll see like a ski resort, like a lift pole thing. There's signs of like you're getting close, but you're still several miles out. And at that point in the race, that could be a couple hours. So I remember feeling close for a long time, and that got frustrating because I was like, oh man, we are like getting there. And it just never came. So the last few miles from Spooner back to Heavenly can definitely drag. Let's see what else on that section. We mentioned that big fire of jumping back to Village Green, like, you're kicking off that long stretch with really hard section, but the first few miles up that big fire road climb are at least somewhere where you can like zone out and just kind of grind. Be prepared again if there's weather on that section. It's exposed. There's a lot of time up at altitude there. And then I would say just make sure your drop bag is, if you're going to use drop bags, make sure the one at Spooner is robust because you'll want it to break up that like 30, like you said, 37-mile stretch without crew. But yeah, that's our Tahoe 200 2025 preview. I hope you guys have a great race, and thank you for listening. We have a subscriber episode that we're going to release along with this episode. It's called the Tahoe 200 Strat Chat. It's more lighthearted. It's like just more fun. Peter and I kind of bantering about how we would race the Tahoe 200 if we were running it this year. We also included how a fictional character would race the race this year. We chose Buddy the Elf from the 2003 cinematic masterpiece, Elf. So if you would like to, you can become a subscriber on Patreon. We'll put the links in the show notes. We are really excited about our new subscriber base. We have quite a few people who have joined already. We're having fun in the Discord. And we're looking forward to putting out a bunch of bonus content. As a reminder, nothing is changing for people who don't wish to subscribe or don't want to subscribe. We'll still do weekly episodes. They'll be free. These course previews are going to remain free. We're not trying to change anything up on our current listeners. And anyone who wants to support us can check out those subscriptions on Patreon. We really appreciate it, and we're having fun with it. Let's see what else. We got another episode here, as we mentioned, in like 3 minutes. So let's wrap it up. This episode is sponsored by Janji. I almost forgot. We haven't mentioned Janji at all. Hopefully we got a lot of people wearing Janji out at Tahoe 200 this year. If you want to support us, you can support us by supporting Janji and using code DISTANCE at janji.com. And then in the post-purchase survey, you can say, it'll say, how did you hear about Janji? And you can say podcast. And then the next screen will pop up with a list of podcasts. And you can say distance to empty. And then if you send us a screenshot of that, we'll send you a free hat. So reach out to us on Instagram and let us know if you've done that, and we'll get you a free hat. We got 2 minutes, Peter. Am I forgetting anything else?
No, I think we nailed it.
I hope so. All right, Tahoe 200 runners, good luck. We will be following along on the tracker and can't wait to see how everyone does. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you soon. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Kevin.
We're back.
That we are.
Back and better than ever. It felt like we rushed off the end of that episode, so we wanted to put a little bit of a bookend on our Tahoe 200 preview and speak to a few more things here. So welcome back to the Tahoe 200 course preview. We'll give you guys another 10 or 15 minutes here of silliness. One thing I wanted to dive into, I feel like a lot of people have questions on, for Tahoe in particular, is the wildlife. Tahoe is known for its bears, and I know I have one athlete I coach in particular who is not scared, but concerned and aware of the bears. I mean, in my opinion, obviously bears should be respected and given space. They're big, capable animals, but black bears, they don't want anything to do with you, especially the ones around Tahoe. A lot of them are a little too habituated, which, they're going to spend their time more down in towns anyway than up in the wilderness. You're probably more likely to see them, in the bike path section than you are up in the trails. So if you do see a bear, give it space. But if it is too close to you, you want to try to scare it away. Don't run. Don't go closer to it. Just try to yell at it, make yourself big. Have preached the Tooth and Claw podcast a lot on our podcast. We're big fans of them. So find a couple of black bear episodes. They're going to be black bear attack episodes. So might be sound counterintuitive, but they'll give you the confidence and the tools you need to navigate the wildlife out there. But the only time I've seen bears in Tahoe has been at my hotel or in town, not out in the woods. So you have any bear facts or bear biology
just the same
to speak
kind of
to?
thing. I've only seen bears around town in Tahoe. A lot like Yosemite or even where I live in Southern California. It's the ones that got used to people that you end up seeing.
Yeah. Yep. So personally, I wouldn't worry about it if I was running Tahoe. I think it's a good thing to be aware of and respect, but not something to, it's not going to be a negative part of your race. If you see a bear, I think it's a really cool experience. Most times just appreciate the animal.
I doubt you'll see one. 300 runners in the night are going to scare the bears away.
Yeah, they're going to stay away from that track that you guys are trekking on. All right. I also wanted to give a shout out to a few runners who are running Tahoe this year. And now I'm sure we're going to miss listeners who I missed on the list, but I went through the list and wanted to shout some of our former guests out, some of the athletes I coach. First and foremost, Josh McDowell. Josh has put together, the last 12 months of training has been the stuff dreams are made of, just so physically ready. And I'm really stoked to see what he does out there. Former guest of ours, Bryant Shook, is going to be out there pacing him, so he'll be in good hands and crewing him. So Josh, good luck. Another athlete of mine, Andrew, is coming over from South Africa. It's been a 2-year journey for Andrew. He is also so prepared and ready to rock. He's already there in Tahoe over a week early, acclimating after a long trip from South Africa. Super excited to see him. It's his first 200. My next athlete running it is Khalil. Also his first 200. He's bringing out an all-star team from the East Coast, and he is ready to crush it. Very experienced ultra runner, jumping up to 200 for the first time. Who else we got, Peter? Chad Bruce is running it.
Yep, Chad Bruce just did the Monster, and so he's been crushing it.
Coming off a strong finish at the Monster. He was one fist bump away from a top 20 finish at the Monster. Let's see. We got Joe Corcione, we love Joe. He's helped us out on the pod a couple of times. We actually have an episode scheduled with Joe for right after he finishes. So we're pulling for Joe. Hopefully he has a great race. But either way, we're going to have an awesome episode with him. His times on the podcast have been helping us do course previews and other things. So I'm excited to actually interview him as a guest. Another person who's running, who, if you've run these races before, you're probably familiar with, Natasha Swartley, Thor, the trail medic. She's been a medic at tons of these races and is finally running her first 200. So that's super exciting. I can't wait to see her accomplish that. I don't know who is going to take care of everyone's feet out there with the Thor running. So that'll be fun to see. But good luck, Thor. We've got a bunch of former guests running it. Brody Chisholm, Evan Birch, Andrea Moore. All those people are running tons of 200s this year. Just crushers. Yeah. Anyone else that we know who's running it?
You got everyone.
Well, I didn't get everyone. We'll cut it. We'll cut it there for now. Good luck to everyone running. Peter, I have some good news and some bad news. What do you want first?
Good news.
All right. The good news is we got our 100th review on Apple.
That's good. Nice.
And it's a great review, and I'm trying not to put the phone too close to the mic because it's picking up some static. So the title is "You've Grown on Me," and it's 5 stars. It says it's from Leppy61. The pace of your interviews and care you bring to the subjects is fabulous. I love the interplay between you. I think she means you and me, Peter. Aw. I want to ask 2 questions, and we have answers to these questions. I'm gonna I'm going to start with her second question. The second question is, where's the Tahoe 2025 preview, please? It's right here. You have just listened to it.
You're just one co-host edit job away from getting it.
Yeah, which is one edit away from getting it out there. So that was a really easy question. The other question is, let's get deep. Is this your invention or is it a clever sponsorship? I've become so familiar with the game that I bought it for my wife's birthday. I fully expected to see that it was authored by the two of you or the podcast, but there's no evidence of such. Do tell. Peter, you want to take this one?
I mean, you might know better. You Googled options and that was the best one, right? Like it could have been any of these.
Yeah, we have no affiliation with Let's Get Deep, and I'm looking at the box now. It's What Do You Meme? So it is a board game company. We have received no incentive or anything. They don't even know who we are. Peter and I just were looking for fun segments to play on the podcast, and we thought that a card game for couples would be fun. And so we picked it up and we now use it when we're pacing. We use it on the podcast. And I think we've turned at least a handful of people onto it. So I wish we were sponsored by Let's Get Deep, but we don't have any connects over at What Do You Meme board game company. But yeah, totally just something we grabbed and play on the pod.
Yep.
Speaking
and then,
of which,
what's the bad news?
well, the bad news, yeah. We'll play Let's Get Deep after the bad news. The bad news is we got our first 1-star review too.
Womp womp.
I think it looks like it was a 4-star review that got changed to a 1-star review because it didn't count as a new review, but it wasn't like a written review. It was just someone who hit the stars on Apple. So it could have been an accident. Who knows? But I have a theory. We got a comment on Spotify that was deleted, but you get email notifications about those comments. And it was, I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, you guys lost me at a subscription. Like, I'm out. It was nice listening to you. So, oh well, we're ruined.
I mean, we did our best not to take anything away, so
Yeah.
can't make everyone happy.
For anyone listening, we do have a new subscription that we're really excited about. We worked really hard on it. It's not changing anything for anyone who doesn't want to subscribe. So if you don't want to subscribe, that's totally cool. We're still stoked to have you as a listener, and we're going to keep churning out content like this course preview. We're not putting these things behind a paywall. The whole subscription thing is just for people who want to be a little more involved with us in our community, fun bonus episodes, a Discord community where we can chat and talk about 200s. So yeah, if you want to learn more about the subscription, the link is in the show notes. It's on Patreon. There's 3 different levels, and we're having a lot of fun with it so far. We're looking at it as a long game. We're going to grow this community and try to really make this a fun, valuable place to be. And if you don't, again, totally cool. We've got about, I think, 10 or so subscribers already, and it's already been really fun to engage and pitch some episode ideas, talk about stuff like that. Yeah. So if you do want to join us, that's awesome. We'd love to have you. No worries. If not, our highest tier is actually a group coaching subscription. And my goal over the course of the next year or so is to really make it like the best value in coaching for 200s, like the sweet spot between not quite one-on-one coaching, but more affordable and still really engaged and like high touch. So check that out if you're curious about coaching for 2. Right now, there's no one who signed up for that. And my guess would be that the first small group of people who do are going to essentially get kind of one-on-one coaching just because it'll be a really small group. So that's our full tank subscription. And we'll put that link in the show notes. So that was the bad news, Peter. Someone's really mad that we did subscriptions.
Oh
well, can't please them all.
That's right.
All right. Should we play Let's Get Deep? Since that is what we do. We card game for couples that we play on the podcast for listeners' enjoyment.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's Get Deep has 3 categories: icebreaker, deep, and deeper. Peter, for your icebreaker, I've got, who is your favorite villain? Evil villain. Sorry, I'm reading it backwards.
Favorite evil villain.
The person outside on that motorcycle?
Yeah, the motorcyclist going down the street. No, I think I'll go Darth Vader. Why not? I think it's a tragedy. He's redeemed at the end and super cool character. But
James Earl Jones, that's a great voice.
Evil villain, I guess. All right, your icebreaker. What has been your favorite age?
That's a good question. I remember when I was like in my like early, maybe late teens, early 20s, I used to hear that like 27 was like the age where you like peaked like physically. And I remember like, oh, it'll be cool to be 27. But then when I was 27, I think I got hip surgery, or it was like just before hip surgery. And I was actually like kind of at my low physically. I don't know, maybe somewhere in my early to mid 30s. I'll say, let's see, I was 31 when I met Peter. So 31.
Okay. Perfect.
All right, deep for you. What is the story behind? What is the story behind how your parents met?
Well, that's actually an interesting story. So my dad went to law school, and his roommate was or is my uncle. So my uncle was already dating his now wife, my aunt, and somehow my dad got introduced to my mom through that connection. So two roommates in law school ended up marrying sisters.
That is cool. It's all about who you know.
All right, you're deep.
Man, probably like the relationship with my dogs. Like Charlotte's a very anxious, quirky dog, and they'd probably do totally normal things that would very much offend her, like leave their cell phone jingle on or sing something or I don't know, move the wrong way.
Dogs are odd.
They're so weird. All right, deeper for you. I feel like the answer to this is everything. What is something that you've been stressed about recently?
Yeah, everything. Yeah, in a way, like yeah, Badwater's coming up. Our kids are going to summer camp soon, trying to figure out logistics of that, and just yeah, just a lot of random stuff. But it's all good. And then you're deeper. What temptation do you find hardest to resist?
Oh God, like sugar. I recently placed a $70 order on licorice.com.
What? For
Did
what?
I not tell you about that?
No.
Go to licorice.com. It's not like just licorice. They have like all these sour candies and stuff. And I bought one in like a vending machine at an airport once. And it's like it's just you should place an order like tonight. You're gonna love it.
I
It's
like
just
black licorice.
I mean they have that, but they also have like just like sour gummies. I got like these patriotic like there's like red and blue gummies only that are just delicious. I have 3 more down in my cabinet. I should go open one right after this.
It's what is the licorice that we sometimes get at like the
The
liquor
Wiley
store?
Wallaby.
Yeah, those are so good.
Those are so good. There are more places now. I used to like only get them like in Utah and like random places, but you can get them in Colorado now at like the gas stations.
That's good race fuel.
Yeah. I like them because they're big pieces, so like you can count out the calories to like if you're fueling for X amount of whatever calories or carbs an hour, it's easy math.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, but sugar is definitely my weakest temptation. Well, cool. I think that about wraps up our Tahoe 200 course preview. Good luck to everyone running. We are really excited to watch and hear about it. Please let us know how it goes, whether that's on Instagram or tag us in you're getting some distance to empty stickers. So slap it on a water bottle or something and tag us in your race recaps and we'll cheer you on from afar. And yeah, please check out our Patreon. If you are interested in that subscription, we are going to release we did mention this in the other part of the episode, I think, but a Tahoe 200 Strat Chat, which is kind of a shorter, sillier version of this episode if you want some more. Cool. All right. See you later, Peter.